Hi, this is Outlaw Bookseller. It's time for another unboxing video, or unbagging, unwrapping, whatever. We'll go with unboxing because that's what you use on YouTube. I received a parcel in the mail today. There we go. Rather a big one. And this is a book by Poul Anderson, which I bought from my friend Mike at Fine Edition Books. Hi Mike. Just want to give a bit of a shout out for Mike, because if you really love books in really fantastic condition, genre fiction, all sorts of other things, Mike at Fine Edition is the man to go for. You can find him on Abe Books. If you're not familiar with Abe Books, you should be. It's on there. Abe Books is the portal through which professional second-hand sellers worldwide sell books to the English language market. Right, are we rolling? Ken love, are we rolling? Ed love, are we rolling? Yes, we are. So I've got a couple of really useful boxes in front of me, which you probably can't see, and they're full of Marvel Masterworks and things like that. So I'm using them as kind of a table, which you won't see. So Poul Anderson, I want to talk a bit about Poul today because I feel I've neglected him. This is his book, The Broken Sword, and this is a Sphere edition from, wow, way back. I bought this back in the 80s. Let's have a look at it. Let's see, 1982. And I bought that because Michael Moorcock cited it in, I think, in Stormbringer as the book which had the most influence over him as a fantasy writer, alongside Bertolt Brecht's Threepenny Opera. Though it might have been the Jerry Cornelius book. Either way, he mentioned this. And I'm not a massive sword and sorcery fan, but I do absolutely love this book. And I recommend it to people in my job all the time. And this is a great heroic fantasy novel, or anti-heroic fantasy novel. And I always tell people the same thing. This is my sort of formula, really. And copyright 1954. I think it was in a magazine before that, and it was revised slightly. So it's the same time as Fellowship of the Rings came out. And here's a slightly later edition. It's a Gollancz Fantasy Masterwork these days. I'll probably put in the thumbnail the current cover because it's very beautiful, but I don't have that one. And I bought this because this was a lovely series they did. Gollancz had a period where they were doing like 8 books in a mini series, and they were fantastic, and they did some great fantasy ones. And this one is from, let's see, does it tell us? Doesn't tell us, but it must be, 10, 15 years old. So I've only actually read about 4 books by Poul Anderson, so I feel I've really neglected him. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to dig into this packaging. Now, Mike at Fine Edition does incredibly good packaging, but he might be here for some time. So if I break off and edit this, don't be surprised. Tear that off. And yeah, I think we are going to have to edit. So I'll leave you again just a moment, and we'll get this unwrapped quickly because, as you can see, pull on, and then we'll return to the rest of the video. I know it's a convention with these things that you show every stage of the process you speed it up, but I always found that boring. I never stood on convention because he never stood on me, but Mike does really great wrapping. You never get a damaged book from Mike, simple as that. So this has got the 4th layer of bubble wrap, and here we are, we've got some brown paper. So we'll just tear that off gingerly to ensure that we don't have any jacket ripping beneath. Sturdy tape. So yeah, Poul Anderson was a Dane, American-Danish writer, wrote an awful lot of books, mostly SF, and I really feel I've neglected him because what I've read I've enjoyed. I'm going to hope to go to Hay&Y soon and try and pick up a load of his backlist SF, which I know because I have to sell them, but I never got around to reading them, and I do feel that I probably missed out. Oh, this is nice, I'll show you in a moment. So yeah, so The Broken Sword came out in the same year as Fellowship of the Rings. It's the kind of dark alternative. It's set in 8th century England, and it's about the conflict between trolls and fairies. And it's not like, lightweight fairies. It's the eldritch beings, very dark and strange. And there's this amazing plot about children swapped at birth and what have you. And I'll read the blurb from the back of this one. Warlock blade is thirsty, howling in its hunger. Hews it through the iron, sings in cloven skull bones, slakes itself in bloodstreams. So this is the sort of dark, savage stuff that we know and love. This is nothing like Tolkien. I think Tolkien, because he's the outsider. Fantasy, as we know it, as sort of created by Robert E. Howard and his few precursors, was hard and fast and short and sharp and lusty and bloody. It wasn't, you know, virtuous. It wasn't about archetypes. It was about real characters, real human passions, and that to me is what makes it. So, so this is more typical of that school. So Poul Anderson, Fritz Leiber, Jack Vance, you know, those sort of people. They're the real ones. They are the true sort of forefathers of what's popular in fantasy now. If you look at people like George R. R. Martin, Joe Abercrombie, Brandon Sanderson, who are all really popular at the moment, they're more influenced really by these sort of people, whether they know it or not indirectly. George R. R. Martin would, I'm sure, than Tolkien. So this is, again, it says, it's superb dark fantasy of the highest of the most Norse order. And that's what I like about it. It's really Nordic. You get that real Nordic thing. And of course, that's where sword and sorcery comes from. Beowulf, the Prose Edda, that sort of thing. So this is what I've got today. The Merman's Children by Poul Anderson. There we go. And there's Poul on the back there. Apparently he's very tall, like to drink, so I've heard. I don't know if that's true, but we all. And that's really, really lovely. It's Berkeley Putnam. This is a... Oh, Mike's card falls out there. Thanks, Mike. Again, he can do no wrong, this guy, I tell you. Let's have a look. Oh, nice. Look at that. Cloth, lovely. Dust jacket, absolutely pristine. Let me just show that to you. There, on the wrap, lovely. Beautiful all the way around. Really gorgeous. Well, that's what you want. I mean, this is what you get what you pay for, really. And I will say the Mike isn't always cheap, but he does have the best copies usually, and he's an extremely nice guy, great fun, and he does lots of stuff at lower prices as well. He does some real high ticket items, so if you're absolutely loaded and have a library to fill, you know, visit Fine Edition Books, Greenhithe on ABE. So there we go. So this one, The Merman's Children, I have read the shorter version, which I think was in a magazine. I think it was in the 50s. We'll just see if there's any detailing. You know, I may be wrong about that. Let's see. Parts of this book have appeared in somewhat different form as the following stories. The Merman's Children in Flashing Swords #1, 1973, edited by Lynn Carter. Now, that's where I read the short version, The Merman's Children. Flashing Swords was the first in a series of anthologies. They're really good if you can pick them up. I've still got Flashing Swords 1 and 2 here somewhere. And also, this includes the Tupilak in Flashing Swords #4, 1977. So they're actually from the 70s, but they do have the same archaic feeling as the Broken Sword, true Nordic feeling, and they're really great stuff. So I'm really looking forward to really sort of reading the complete thing, because I've never read the Tupilak. So I'll just read you the blurb. In The Merman's Children, set against the medieval tableau of Europe and the mustering forces of Christendom, see what I mean about the Nordic thing? Poul Anderson, the world's most honoured author of fantasy and science fiction, has written his biggest and most ambitious novel ever. He wanted to write one great fantasy, the story of how the last age of fairy passed and how the fairy folk gave way for the inevitable spread of Christendom. So this has the same sort of feel as the Broken Sword, and you know, it's completely authentic Nordic fantasy. I can't say enough good about the Broken Sword. I love it. I've read it many times. So I do feel I've neglected Poul, so I'm looking forward to reading that. A great addition to the collection. I try and buy about one special thing every month to sort of gradually build things up. So that's really great. I'm pleased with that. The other Poul Anderson book I've read is probably his most famous book. This is in SF Masterworks of Golags, and this is Tau Zero. You should probably pronounce it Tau Zero. And this is hard SF. This is early 50s as well, I believe. And let me just see. I'll just check now, and I think I covered this in 100 must-read fantasy novels. No, it's the 60s. Gosh, I'm way off on my dates at the moment. Copyright 1970, short version of this novel appeared in Galaxy, the great literary SF magazine, of course, in June and August 1967, under the title To Outlive Eternity. And it's about people on board a spacecraft that gradually goes FTL, and it starts time travelling, and there's all that sort of Einstein type stuff in it. And it's really a great roller coaster ride. If you like the sort of physics and space opera type thing, you can't go wrong. And it's really good. I really enjoyed it. My friend Stu, who I haven't seen for a while. Hi Stu, hope you're watching. He's a big fan of this. So that's Poul Anderson. So I really recommend The Broken Sword. Anybody who likes a really good, hard, short, sharp fantasy. This doesn't have any sequels. That's the whole thing. Fantasy now, it's this artificial thing of trilogies and ongoing things that go on and on and on and on. And readers often say to me, you know, customers in the bookstore I work say, oh, you know, they're not as good as they used to be. And I say, well, if you keep buying them, the writers will keep writing them. And it would be good in publishing if we could get back to some good, strong singletons or short stories in fantasy, because the taut, sharp thing is much, much better than this flabby world building. So if you like it dark, you know, horror fans, you'd enjoy this as well. Anybody who likes good, taut, sharp SF. Very, very much the slicing through of all that unnecessary detail, but they're still completely authentic. So Poul Anderson, The Merman's Children, is going to be my next read. I'm going to read that next. I'm finishing off a book at the moment, and this I think is going to jump the queue because I'm really looking forward to getting that feel of the full Nordic. And as I say, that's from Fine Edition. There you go. So this is Outlaw Bookseller. I should probably have chain mail and a horned helmet and all that stuff on, but I don't have any of it hanging around at the moment, so I thought I'd go with the classic Italian scarf just to sort of give it a little bit of a cool sort of blue feeling, and because I knew the cover of the book would be the same colour. So you're always thinking about the fashion side of things, of course. So this is Outlaw Bookseller signing out, and I'm going to have a good sit down now and read The Merman's Children. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye for now.